Ok. Buenos días y bienvenidos a todos. En el marco de la Cátedra Patrimonial en Medio Ambiente, Dr. Héctor Mayagoitia Domínguez, séptima edición, versión 2022, tenemos el honor y es un placer para mí en presentar a la doctora Zhong con la conferencia titulada Transition Metal Chalcogenides Derived from Double Layered Hydroxides for Oxygen Electrode Reactions. Daré una pequeña semblanza de introducción de la trayectoria de trabajo de la doctora Zhong en inglés para que ella esté atenta en qué momento puede compartir su presentación. I'm going to read a brief profile to Dr. Zhong. Dr. Zhong is Associate Professor in College of Science, Hainan University, Haikou, China. Dr. Zhong is known for the pioneering research on developing non-precious metals electrocatalysts toward oxygen electrode reaction for renewable energy conversion and storage devices. She was one of the Ph.D. students in Professor Fong Group in Beijing University of Chemical Technology and took 19 months in Professor Nicolas Alonso Vantes Group, University of Poitiers, France. From August 2020 and August 2022, she was a postdoc in Professor Lee Group in Beijing University of Chemical Technology. As the first correspondent author to date, she has published 14 papers reviewed in American Chemical Society, Applied Material Interfaces, Journal of Energy of Chemistry, Journal Power Source, Electrochemical Acta, and so on. We have 45 minutes for the presentation and 15 minutes for questions. La dinámica de la presentación es que tenemos 45 minutos para ella y 15 minutos para las preguntas. Pueden hacernos llegar las preguntas a través del cuadro de YouTube en donde se alojan los comentarios. Without more introduction, we leave the spotlight to Dr. Zhong, where she can start to present her PowerPoint. You can start.
Okay, now I'm going to share my PowerPoint. Okay, now I'm going to make my presentation. And good morning, everyone. I'm Haihong Zhong. I'm from China. Now I'm going to make a report. It's about the transition metal chalcogenides derived from the double layered hydroxides for oxygen electrode reactions. But before the presentation, I want to thanks for the introduction from Luis, and I appreciate the invitation from the chair of the organization committee and the Dr. Juan, who helped me, contact me, and helped me to give us with lots of messages, and also Luis give me this opportunity to share our idea. I hope we can discuss, and after my presentation, don't hesitate to raise your questions, okay? My presentation is divided into the following 3 parts. The first part is, give me some minutes to make a brief introduction. From 2010 to 2014, I studied in the Beijing University of Chemical Technology. And after that, I continue in this university to be a Ph.D. student. We follow the Professor Yongjun Feng. And in this time, I spent 19 months in University of Poitiers as an exchange student in the group of Professor Nicolas Alonso Vantes. That's the time I met Luis, and thanks Luis again to give me this opportunity. And after the PhD in 2020, I spent 2 years as a postdoctoral in BioCT And this year, October, until now, I joined in the Hainan University as an associate professor. In the map, you can see Hainan is an island in the southeast of China. Here, we are here. And here is the island is very beautiful. We have a beautiful view and you can enjoy the study and your life. So welcome to Hainan. And the next part is about the research background and the motivation, why we work on this kind of material. As we know, now is the fossil energy resist and leading to a very serious pollution like the air pollution. And what we can do is going to develop and it's very urgent, and we have to develop renewable clean energy like the solar and the wind and microhydro. So we can see here in this map, in this figure shows here the electrochemical process play an essential role in the energy conversion and storage technologies. They can transfer the chemical energy into the electricity directly by the fuel cell, for example. Recently, the great efforts have been devoted to developing and using the clean, green, and renewable hydrogen resource. There are many advanced energy storage conversion devices, such as the water spreading, a battery, and a fuel cell, etc. Here, from the energy storage, the water can transfer into hydrogen and oxygen by the water spreading device. And but for the energy supply, that means in the other side, from the hydrogen and oxygen, they can transfer to the water to supply the energy. That means here the device involves the fuel cell and the battery, and you can survive the energy. So the energy storage and energy supplies, all this is, we can see here is involves the electrons reactions. For example, in the fuel cell and the electrolyzer, here we have two kinds of electro reactions. One is the oxygen electro reactions. The other one is the hydrogen electro reactions. And the oxygen electro reactions include the oxygen evolution reaction. We also call it OER. And the other one is oxygen reduction reactions, ORR. And compared to the hydrogen electro reactions, oxygen reactions, the theoretic overpotential are much higher than the hydrogen because it involves the 4 electrons reactions and complicates the absorption and desorption process of the reaction intermediates. So we focus on the oxygen electro reactions. So in the right figure here, it shows the two curves LSV here, and this one is OER, and the left one here is the ORR. These two curves, and we see we need use the catalyst to catalyze the reactions. And what we can do, how we can reduce the overpotential. And one is we need to increase the unset potential. Unset potential is related to the intrinsic activity of the material. And on the other hand, We also can decrease the Taffel slope. Taffel slope also is associated with the diffusion efficiency, like electrons, ions, and the gas during the reactions. So the challenges is we need to develop the efficient and cheap electrocatalyst to decrease the over potential and then improve the performance of the device. So recently, the researchers all over the world, they try to develop the Earth's abundant environments to replace the platinum or ruthenium or iridium. There are many kinds of non-noble materials, like metal-free carbon materials, and now it's very popular and interesting one, the metal coordinated with nitrogen supported on carbon. This material now is used in many reactions, and it shows also the encouraging performance. And other one like transition metal chalcogenides. This one I'm going to this material I'm going later. I'm going to show some work what we are doing now, and also here organic nanoparticles, organic microcyclic compounds. All these non-noble materials shows are promising candidates to replace the noble materials. Okay, for the transition metal chalcogenides, in the first figure, we can see the publication of this kind of material, metal selenide electrodes. The publication is increasing. So we can imagine in the next years, it also will keep increasing because this material, for example, the selenide element, it shows the procedural metallicity compared to the oxygen or the sulfur. And also these selenide elements also have the 3D orbitals like a metal. And for the sulfur with the metal 3D and the sulfur is 2p. Between them have the repulsions. These effects will increase the electrons' affinity to the absorbed oxygen, or they will facilitate the deprotonation of the OH. So, and then they will increase the overall the performance of the OER reaction process. There are many literatures. They report the many strategy to optimize the intrinsic activity for this kind of material, like electron to enhance the electron interactions between two compounds, or surface engineering and the interface engineering. Also, the geometric engineering and the phase control. For example, in the geometric engineering, we can construct the polar structure. It's good for the diffusion. It's good for improving the diffusion efficiency. And the phase control here, because like a cobalt selenide or the nickel selenide, they shows the different phase, like orthorhombic or the cubic. They show the different performance to the different reactions. So if we can control the phase to the reactions to control this phase, we can get good materials. And the next part, I'm going to report the work what we doing recently about this transition metal chalcogenides derived from the double layered hydroxides for oxygen electrode reactions. So now, for the ORR or the OER here, we know the single active site sometimes is not shows satisfactory activity for the reactions. So when we construct the dual active sites, we need to increase the interaction between these two active sites. How we can construct and strengthen the electron interaction of these two dual active sites? And we assume and propose a strategy. We can prepare a material derived from the layered double hydroxide precursors. Layered double hydroxide precursors, we also call the LDH, is a very typical 2D lamellar nanomaterials. And here you can see here the first lies hammer. The first the host layer. In the host layer, it composed 2 or 3 kinds of metal 2+ or the metal 3+. In the interlayer region here is the anions. Anions can be here in the interlayer region. And this LDH, it shows several advantages, including the diverse composition, because we can change the kinds of metal in the host sheet, and also we can change the kind of the anion in the interlayer region here. Other one is the regulable dimension. The last, not the last one, and also another one is the topological transportation. That's why the LDH can transfer to the chalcogenides. Because after the carbonization, the host will transfer to the metal selenides or metal sulfide, and the interlayer here it can transfer to the carbon. That means the nanoparticles just supported on the carbon. This figure shows more clearly the composition of the host layer. So based on the composition adjustment of the LDH host layers, we turn the kinds of metal elements and their molar ratio. Yes, molar ratio, that means of the metal 2+ or the metal 3+. Their molar ratio is subjected to the cyanidation and or the sulfurization, and then we can get our materials. For example, shows here in the host sheets, host layer here, between the metal 1 and the metal 2 here, they bond with the chalcogen element, like selenide or the sulfur. They can enhance the electron interaction between these the dual active sites. So we are going to report 3 works about this kind of based on these strategies. The first one is the cobalt nickel selenide supported on the carbon. It shows at the left here. It is the preparation we adjust the molar ratio of the cobalt and the nickel ions to prepare a series catalyst with their different molar ratio of the cobalt selenide and the nickel selenide. At first, we got the cobalt nickel cobalt nickel LHs, and then we attach in the alkali. And we from the XRD we can see we got this material with the different molar ratios of the cobalt selenide LH. And after that, we are attaching in the alkali to remove the inactive Al, this element. And then we just left the cobalt and nickel LHs because this tool is active for the ORR. And then we continue to investigate this material, the crystal structure. From the XRD here, we can see based on the XRD analysis, we in the compounds they are composed cubic cobalt selenide and cubic nickel selenide here. And also we found between these two phases there is interstitial cubic cobalt nickel and selenide custom between these two phases. This is interesting finding. And then we find this material is shifts structure. It shows it's not a particle. It's shift structure, and also the HRTM further confirm we got the cobalt selenide and the nickel selenide. In the cobalt, nickel, and the selenide elements, they shows the high dispersions. And then the next slide here, we shows we want to know the surface electron structure on these three materials. So we did the XPS and single soft single charge here. And based on the analysis, we find after forming the cobalt selenide and the nickel selenide composites, the electrons reduce tribute. That means the cobalt and the nickel active metals, they receive and they got the electrons from the selenide. So we perspect that between the cobalt and selenide, they forms with the between the cobalt and the nickel, there is selenide. That means they form the cobalt, nickel, and selenide, this configuration. And then the next work, we continue to find some information about the pore structure and all the semiconductor properties. And these three samples, the BT specific surface area value is similar, is around 100, and the biggest, highest one is the 137, is on the material cobalt to nickel. The molar ratio is 1 to 2 in this sample. And these three sample powder that also show the conductivity. Especially the ratio is 1 to 2. This material displays the lower resistivity and higher carrier concentration among these three samples. Okay, and after the physical or the chemical characterization, we test the ORR activity and the stability. And here we did the CV and RSV and also calculate the toughest slope. Here we find this when in the alkali, the material, these three material, they shows the ORR activity is much better than the only cobalt selenide alone. That means cobalt nickel selenide, when they get composites, the activity much improved. And when the ratio is 1:2, it shows the best ORR activity among these three samples. But this is close to platinum, the commercial platinum catalyst. And then we can continue to test the RDE to find some information about the selectivity. And also we can see here, this material 1:2, it shows the high 4-electron selectivity. Because, based on the average number of the electron transfer number and the hydroxide productions. So we can say this material has a high ORR activity and 4-electron selectivity. The next slide here, we compare our material. The best one is the mole ratio is 1:2 selenide supporting on carbon in alkali towards to ORR to the other materials reporting in the literatures. And we can see our material shows a comparable active performance. And also except for the activity, we also want to know about the methanol tolerance and the stability. So we did the work. We can see after the addition of the methanol, this material is negligible change here, almost a straight line. But for the platinum, we know the platinum is not stable in the methanol or the ethanol, the alcohol solution. And for the stability, we test after 3,000 cycles. This material is not changed too much. Only the halfway potential only changed 5 millivolts, but for the platinum is 35. So we can see our material is good. Also shows a good methanol tolerance and stability compared to the platinum. But this work is under preparation. It haven't published yet. It's under preparation. And the next work is about the sulfide. The last one, before one is the cobalt nickel selenide. But this work is we want to know what happened if we change the elements into the sulfur. So we prepare the similar, we follow the similar preparation, but the difference we change. We use this metallic oxide. We put into the interlayer of the LGHs, because we can see in this structure they have this material. It has sulfur and nitrogen. So we assume after the carbonization, it can service as carbon support, and also provides the sulfur to make the sulfurization cobalt and the nickel, and then we can get the cobalt nickel sulfides. Yes, and we confirm we got this material, and after the carbonization and attaching in acid to remove the inactive elements, and then we find this material is completely transferred compared to before. And then we make a carefully XRD analysis, and this work also comes from my friend Luis. He did this nice work, helped me to analyze the XRD. And we can see in the 4 temperatures here, we heat treated in under the 4 temperatures, like 700, 800, 900, and 1000. Here is actually, yes, they show the different components. When the temperature at 700 and 800, the major component is the cobalt sulfide and a nickel sulfide. But when the temperature increase, there is the presence of the nickel oxide. And then when the temperature increases to 1000, there is cobalt nickel 7 and sulfur 8 present. And then we can say the sulfurization temperature plays a key role in the phase transfer and the crystal structure evolution. This because of the different sulfur doping level at the different sulfurization temperature. Here is there are 2 tables to summarize the parameters of the XRD analysis. And here we also get a new information. When the temperature at the 800, 900, and 1000, these 3 samples, they have the cation vacancies, like cobalt or the nickel vacancies. This slide shows the morphology of the LDH or after the carbonization and the attaching here. So we can see the LDH precursors shows like a flower-like morphology, and it is composed of the many interconnected LDH nanoships. And after the attaching, we can see the nano ships, the thickness and the roughness increased. Here we show it displays the SEM images of these 4 samples. We can see after the attaching, and then we sulfurization, we got the samples, but they still maintain the microspheres. But when the temperature, also here I want to mention is especially in the sample 900 here, we found many worries, the holes here, porous. But when the temperature keeps increasing to 1000, we see on the surface there are partial collapses. In the HRTM images, we calculate the size of the nanoparticles here on the surface of the carbon shapes here. And we can see it's obviously from along with the increase of the temperature, the size of the nanoparticles is increased from the 6.37 to 147.5. Maybe it comes from the effects of the temperature. Also, as I mentioned in the XRD analysis, is different components, and different components they have a different the size. And later we continue to there shows the stamp images. Here is very clear, and then the nanoparticles is the size increase, and then the table shows the sample 900 of the atomic ratios of different elements, and we can find the sulfur here. The residual sulfur is dumped into the carbon matrix, because the nickel plus to the cycle here to the sulfur, the actual value is only 0.45, but the theoretical value is should be 1.13. So we can say the residual sulfur is dumped into the carbon. This slide demonstrates it shows the sample is the 900 here. Is also we can see all these elements are very uniform dispersed, and here is a solid solution characteristic of the cobalt nickel bimetallic sulfide in the sample. And then we examine the pole and the carbon and the defect structure here, and we can see here as the sulfurization temperature increasing, the specific surface area also increased. But for the carbon structure, there is not changed too much. But only the G band here is shift to the higher regions, maybe because comes from the more carbon defect. And then we test the vacancy here is this value is also related to the metal vacancies, is indicated by the XRD analysis. For the surface electron structure, we also did a lot of work like XPS and the soft synchrotron here, and we can see after the analysis, we can see here with the increase of the temperatures at the beginning, at the low temperature, they shows the oxygen cobalt 2+, and also the cobalt 3+. But when the temperature increased to the 900 and 1000, it shows only the cobalt 3+. For the nickel, it shows the similar situation. Here we see at the lower temperature is also the nickel 2+ and the nickel 3+, but when the temperature increased to the 900 and 1000, it's only the nickel 3+. For the sulfur, it confirms the presence of the metal connects with the sulfur. And we can say after the introducing of nickel, it facilitates the formation of the cobalt 3+, which is active site for the OR or OER reactions. And then we test their activity for the OR and OER. And here we show the performance here. And then we can say after we compare the bifunction performance, this sample, 10 and 900 temperature, this catalyst, it shows a smaller value compared to the other temperatures and the commercial platinum and the ruthenium oxide. The value is 0.75, is lower, a little bit lower than the others. So we can say these materials shows more excellent OR and OER bifunction performance. And also here indicates the similar conclusion. The resistance is lower than the others. Now later we're going to find what's the reason of this material. So we test the contact angle of these four materials, and we find this samples 900 is the first one is 700, 800, and 900, 1000. We can say except for the 700, and the other three samples shows the similar contact angles. When the contact angles is smaller, that means is better hydrophilicity, which is more conductive to the OER electrocatalysis. And then we continue to do the work on about in situ Raman on the 900 samples. And we can see when we increasing the potential, when we increase the potential here, the peak located around the 700 here is the peak belongs to the metal sulfide. It decreases. That means the metal sulfide is reacts with the oxygen. And here is brown the peak here. It belongs to the active metal hydroxides. It's like a nickel cobalt hydroxide here. From these figures, we can say during the OER, our materials, the metal sulfides, it transfer a part of the metal sulfide transfer to the metal hydroxides, but they still maintain the some metal sulfide. And then for these microspheres, cobalt nickel sulfide microspheres, we test their stability, and also after the stability, we want to know about the surface electron structure of these materials. We can see after the OR and the OER test, the signal here, the most things is the signal here for the metal and the sulfur here is still detected. Now it comes to a question. It also comes from many the readers and reviewers. They will ask at the high potentials, what are the true active species for the OER catalysis? And with these questions, we check with the many literatures, and there are 4 main proposals. The first one is the derived metal oxide on the surface. The derived metal oxide or the hydroxides on the surface, they have a high nanostructure surface area, which is more, it can promote. That means favor for the OER process. And the second one is on the surface, this unusual metal oxide or the hydroxide phases are more catalytic active, but it's difficult to attend by the conventional synthesis. That means by the conventional synthesis, we cannot get this kind of unusual normal phase or the non-testable metal oxide or the hydroxide phase on the surface. But during the OER process, you get these materials, and then it's more active or more catalytically active. And the third proposal is metal chalcogenides are more conductive and can be serviced as the conductive scaffolds for the active metal oxide and the hydroxide species. That means there is connection between the chalcogenides and the active metal oxide or the hydroxide. Yes, we are sure the metal oxide or the hydroxide is more active for the OER, but the metal chalcogenides, they also plays an important role in the conductivity, because we know the oxide or the LDH or the hydroxide, they are not so conductive for the electrochemical process. And the first proposal is the synergistic electron interaction between the different components. That's why they improve the overall performance for the OER. So that's but until now, regarding to the true active special species for the OER catalysis, we don't have the set conclusion. We can say which one is more active or which one is not active and which one is not important and the other one is very important. We cannot say we cannot make this conclusion, because they are same until now. There also is still challenges for all of us to investigate what is the true active species. And for this cobalt, nickel, sulfur microspheres, we compare with the function performance. We also compare with the other work reported materials, and we can see our material also is we cannot say is the best, but also is better than many materials. And this work is already published in Journal of the Energy Chemistry. And the next work is the other one is the last one I want to report is we construct a heterostructure between LDH and the cobalt nickel selenide. Before two work we get the cobalt or the nickel selenide or the cobalt nickel sulfide from the LDH. But now we want to make a heterostructure between these two materials. We want to, because we know the LDH is not so conductive for the reactions. So we want to, based on the high conductivity of the selenides. So, and what we can see between these two materials. And for these two materials, also we made the work as this beautiful work also is come from the Luis, and we find this material in here. In this composites here also find the cobalt selenide and the nickel selenide and the nickel iron LDH. There is a composite. In the HRTM here, we also found there are two distinct region. Here is the left is belong to the nickel iron LDH, and here is interface, and at the left, on the right is we find is the nickel selenide. Maybe the cobalt selenide is not here. This region is maybe is in other region, and this material is also shows like a flower microspheres, and the LDH on the surface. The LDH is shows a different morphology. The two kind of morphology is one is the like shapes, and the other is like wires on the surface of the selenide. And then we continue find information on this polar structure and also the conductivity. And we can see they show the typical H4 hysteresis loop, and that means there are mesoporous structures in the material. And also compared to the nickel iron LDH, these composites, the PET specific surface area, the value is much improved, increased to from 118 to 155. And the interesting things is when we compare the conductivity, we can see here this composite shows much lower resistance compared to only the LDH. And also, but the carrier concentration is much improved. That means this material, it shows it has better conductivity. And then we make the hard synchrotron here to further confirm the species of the nickel selenide and the cobalt selenide here. And also for the iron is the iron oxide iron. That means is yes, the come from the LDH. And then we tested the OER performance of these composites. Now we can see compared to the nickel iron LDH, this orange one, the curve orange one, and the red one is the selenide. And these compounds, it shows the much enhanced OER activity in to achieve the current of 10, the current density of 10 here. It only acquire 237 millivolts, but the other one is higher than the 300, even the 343. Also, this composite shows the smaller resistance. And then we want to see what happens if we add like a sea, because we want to simulate the like a seawater. So we add the sodium chloride, and here we find compared to only the alkali, the alkali, this one here, this one, we add the sodium chloride here. The activity is it decreases just a little bit, but for the residuum oxide here, it decreases much. And then we continue test this. We want to know about the electrochemical activity. Electrochemical active surface area of these 3 samples. And we, after the calculation, we found this composite shows the largest surface area among these 3 samples. And then we continue to get more information about the activity, and we find this composites, the semi-cycle composite of this semi-cycle. It appears the first 3 compared to the other 2, and that means this composite occurs earlier than the other 2 samples to catalyze the OER reactions. And then we test its stability after 12 hours. Is almost stable, not changed much. And then we cycling 5,000 cycles. The over potential is only decreased from 237 to 254. We compare with the other materials reported in the literatures. We found our materials here. The over potential here shows this composite is highly competitive activity for the OER as compared with the other materials. And also this work is under submission. Okay, and now this work with I introduced the 3 works what we are doing now. And now I want to thank the School of Science, Hainan University, and the University, Beijing University of Chemical Technology, and Professor Zhongjun Feng and Nicolas Alonso Wande, and my friends Luis, and also the master Yuan Gao and Xiaofei Gong and Xu Kexing. And thanks. And here is my the contact information if you are interested in my work, and just email me. And thanks for your attention. That's all my presentation. Thank you.
Nice presentation, Haihong. I so impressed about all your findings that you have in your materials. We have some questions. We have some minutes for that. El doctor, in the YouTube chat, we have Juan Alberto Alcántara ask, can we obtain the nanolayers with different techniques? I think that the nanolayers, I think they try to mention about the 2D nanomaterials. We can prepare nanolayers for the LDH.
Yes, we can control the size or the morphology of the LDH, like nanolayers. It just we control the concentration of the metal solution, and also the synthesis method, like hydrothermal method, or you can use just reaction at the temperature. Also, we can change the temperature, and we can use the morphology agents to control. And yes, there are many methods we can do to control the size of the layers.
In your experience with the 3D materials, how the second metal changes the electronic properties of the cluster? What you can imagine that happen?
Yes, why we choose cobalt and nickel, because we need to know what reactions this material what he can be for the reactions. So, for example, for the OR, we know the cobalt and the nickel, they are active for the oxygen reduction reactions. so we choose cobalt and nickel. But for the LDH, they have to, in the host layer, there must be metal 3 plus iron. So except for the cobalt nickel, we have to choose another iron. They show there is 3 plus. So we have to we use the aluminum, and then with aluminum is not active. That why we attaching in alkali or the acid. And after attaching this one, there are two metal, cobalt and a nickel. And we can see before we introducing the second metal, like a metal, nickel, only the cobalt one, after introducing the second nickel metal, they have a more cobalt 3 plus, and the cobalt 3 plus is good for the OR. That means they have a strong electron interaction between these two materials.
Okay. One more question, and the interaction between these layers and the support, because you showed that the cobalt nickel selenide support onto the carbon, the interaction is good, or you have to improve a little bit more the stability in the direction of the support?
Yes, the first work is the interaction with the carbon is not so good because we mix with by the physical mixing. And then the second work is the cobalt nickel sulfides. Why we choose another material to get into the interlayer region, because after the carbonization it can transfer into the carbon. That means they mix by the chemical connections. And the last work also actually we are doing is group on carbon paper or group on nickel forms to improve their stability when we use in water splitting. It will be good for the stability to group directly on the substrate.
Okay. Thank you so much, Haihong. Thank you for the questions, and I will read and share the certification. Muchas gracias por sus preguntas a todos. Ahora continuaré mostrando el diploma de la doctora. Esperen un momento. Ok. Voy a leerlo. Certificate for Ph.D. Haihong Zhong for the keynote lecture, Transition Metal Chalcogenides derived from Double Layered Hydroxide for Oxygen Electrode Reaction. Dentro de la Cátedra Patrimonial en Medio Ambiente, Dr. Héctor Mayagoitia Domínguez. So this is for me. This is all. Thank you for watching all this video and the presentation. Gracias para todos los que están en YouTube y que han seguido la transmisión desde que inició. Thank you so much, Haihong, for your presentation. That's nice work that are you doing in your laboratory. Okay. Gracias.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks again for the opportunity of the chair of the organization and the CEO Matt and Luis and Dr. Juan.
Muy bien.